Hello and welcome to the second video of Module 1 for fourth quarter. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you raise a power to a power. So this is the powers of powers rule. First example, we have an expression of 10 to the power of 3, and that whole thing inside the parentheses is being raised to the power of 2. If I were to rewrite that, but instead of writing 10 to the power of 3, let's go ahead and expand that part out. That would be 10 times 10 times 10. And that whole thing is happening 2 times. It's raised to the power of 2. So we're multiplying those 3 tens times themselves. If we would write that out in standard form, it would look like, I'm going to keep them in parentheses for a second just because I think it'll make a little more sense. 10 times 10 times 10, and we're squaring that, so let's do it, times the same thing again, 10 times 10 times 10. Now because everything is being multiplied inside the parentheses and the parentheses being written right next to each other, I know there's no multiplication sign there, but that means multiplication. It's a known operation. So I can take my eraser tool here and just erase all of those parentheses. And true expanded form would just be all of those tens multiplied together. So if you count them up, you'll notice 6 of them. So standard form would be 10 to the power of 6. Let's look at the next example, number 2. Our original expression is c to the power of 4 squared. So for this one, inside the parentheses, there are 4 c's all being multiplied together, and that whole thing is being multiplied times itself, squared. So if I wrote that out in expanded form, it would be c times c times c times c, which really means c to the 4th, times itself, one more time. So we have the contents of those parentheses are happening 2 times, being multiplied together 2 times. And again, just like the last example, I can go ahead and erase those parentheses, only because everything's being multiplied together anyways. And we end up with 8 c's being multiplied together, which in standard form would be c to the power of 8. Third example, m to the power of 3 raised to the power of 3. Inside those parentheses would be m times m times m, and because that is being raised to the power of 3, we need 2 more of them. So that would be another parenthesis. Well, for now I'll just write the cubed on the outside. So in expanded form, that would be, I'm going to skip the parentheses step like I did the last 2 times. Hopefully you get the hang of it. We have m times m times m. That's what was originally in the parentheses, but we need to do that 3 times. So times m times m times m times m times m times m. There's the parenthesis, what is inside the parentheses, once, twice, 3 times. If you count those up, we have 9 of them. M to the power of 9 would be standard form. And the last example, I want you to notice right now that if I wrote 5 times itself 11 times, and then I did that 9 times, that's gonna take up way more room and way more time than any of us want to spend. So if we go back and look at what's happening here, we can probably discover the rule if you haven't already. For the first example, how do you take a 3 into 2 and wind up with a 6? Multiplication. Second example, 4 into 2, we end up with a power of 8. And the third one, we have 3 into 3. If you multiply those together, you get a power of 9. So it appears that the rule is when you raise a power to a power, you just multiply those 2 numbers together to get your new power. So for the fourth one, let's skip expanded form and let's go right to standard form. The base stays the same. The base will be 5. And the power will be 11 times 9, which is 99. To see that rule written out, I've got an example here to look at. Oops. Powers of powers rule. 10, this number could be anything. Any base would work, but we just use 10 as an example. Any number raised to the power of anything, we're calling it n, raised to the power of anything else, we're calling that m, would be the same as 10 raised to the power of those two numbers multiplied together. So again, for example, let's say 10 to the power of, instead of the letter n, let's just choose a number, we'll say 5. And instead of the variable m, we'll say 4, which would be the same as 10 raised to the power of 5 times 4, which equals 10 to the power of 20. Good job.